ALG really saved me. I put all of my success on joining this group. People constantly checking in saved me.
I made so many friends with people that I've never met, but I feel incredibly close to, and I consider them family.
It really is a family. It is a place where you can just be yourself, and there is no judgment. There is no shame. You are so welcome there.
Nobody has to be in this alone. Everybody is either going through or has gone through the same thing at one point.
Let's do this.
That song is such a jump off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the ALG podcast. If you are joining us on the day of drop, then happy Friday to you. Really quick at the top of the show, if you could 5-star rate and review the show, I'd really appreciate that. David really wouldn't care, but I would really appreciate that.
I like
5-star rate it. Yeah, he's, 5-star rate it. Get it out there. Share with someone who you think it will inspire. As always, tonight's podcast is brought to you by Redcon 1. For the highest state of readiness, go to redcon1.com. Use promo code T20 JARPS and save at checkout. And our friends over at Real Good Foods has also given us a promo code. If you use the promo code The Gains in Between, that's The Gains GAINZ in between at checkout, you will save money. All right, guys, today we have a very special guest. We've taken a little bit of a break from bringing on guests, but tonight we have brought on a guest. Before I introduce him, as always, I am John Arpino, otherwise known as JArt Math on Instagram. I am joined alongside my partner in crime, David Roden, otherwise known as Fit_DRock on Instagram. And today we have with us my man, the one and only Patrick Fitzpatrick, wrestler, podcaster, weight loss guy. He's kind of jacked. Not so bad.
Okay, real talk. Why is your name so fucking cool?
Well,
is that your real name?
It's real. It's real to you.
Okay, we'll go with it. Okay, cool.
It's real to you.
I'm like, that's not fucking fair, man. Like, that was planned out so far long ago. I'm like, it's so beautiful.
It's a real pro wrestling name. Let's say
Gotcha.
It sticks with you. That's the plan.
Patrick Fitzpatrick, my friend. We have known each other quite a while now. He has his own podcast, so why don't you plug that really quick at the top of the show before we really get into it all?
Oh, hell yeah. It's the Some Days Off Show. It's a podcast that features two fitness professionals and a dude who's lost over 300 pounds. I'm the dude who's lost over 300 pounds. We drop every Monday, everywhere you can find your podcasts. Basically, it's myself, a guy who's went through it, a guy who can empathize, who can sympathize, who knows really how hard it is to embark on what it is that we're all trying to do here. And then we got two fitness professionals, including one who's my personal trainer, who's, I guess, as John would say, I'm not saying because I'm humble, but I'm super jacked. That gets me jacked. And it's Mike Baranis. He's the Stoked Brogy on Instagram. Gaspar, who's his co-owner at the gym with him, and a good buddy of mine. He's Gaspar_Ferrantelli on Instagram, and I am Patrick Fitzpatrick PFP on Instagram. We drop every Monday, so to me, this is like a perfect little. We could start your week, and then over here we could end your week. So
absolutely. Shout out to my guys. They're awesome. They are two really, they're nice, as they would say.
And you guys are all, and you're in New York too.
No.
Yes. I'm
just gonna guess you're in New York based upon New York everything.
Yes, I got a lot of I got Knicks paraphernalia on actually. Wow. I got a Knicks hat chilling there, a Yankee logo up there. Little do you guys notice, there's a TV over here where there's a Knick game going on. So
wow, interesting.
Yeah, definitely from New York. Definitely a New York City boy.
Might be. So what's really cool is I was doing some quick JArt math, so it's probably wrong after I say it, but I was doing some quick JArt math during that little intro there, and I've realized that there is, if you carry the one, there's like 800 pounds of weight loss on this podcast right now.
Whew.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. That was good, right?
Almost a half a ton in this weight loss on this episode right now.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Fucking wild. And actually, I'm gonna pivot it back because I'm gonna name drop. I'm gonna name drop. I don't know where your allegiances lie based upon the Yankees logo you got back there. There's no way he's ever going to hear this episode. I'm just going to, but so my, one of my really good friends, his sister dated Clint Frazier for like 2.5, 3 years.
Oh.
And and so when I used to live in Royal Oak, it's like a burb outside of Detroit. Clint stayed at our house for 3 days when they had a 3-day stint against the Tigers. He's a character.
Wow.
Clint is a character of a man. There's certain things that I will not be saying on this podcast, but you would think that like every single baseball player is super savage. This Clint is as quiet as they come. Super weird.
Yeah, I would say he has to be quite a character for be making that Major League Baseball money, which I know he's not making the most, but he's still like, yo, I'm gonna stay in this apartment on the suburbs with these people instead of just being like, I'm just gonna stay in the super cool team hotel.
well,
So you gotta be a character.
Let me tell you something really quick there, Patrick Fitzpatrick. David has a lot of money, so it's a nice house.
I don't have that.
He's
No.
a trust fund baby. Let's call a spade.
Were you gonna say I don't have that much money?
Yeah, that's what he was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll spare you the rich jokes for the rest of the time, David. That was it. All right?
That was the only one.
Pat. All right, let's take it back. I'm gonna say from my perspective how I know you, and then you're gonna take us through a little walkthrough. So I know Pat because before I had my weight loss journey, we all know before all of this happened to me, I was and still am a super big wrestling fan who somehow worked his way into the business. And in that process, I was a fan to a local promotion, and I was at a show, and out comes, at the time, DJ PhatPat, which is now Patrick Fitzpatrick, and he caught my eye. And he caught my eye because of the fact that I was big, he was big, but he was cool big. You know what I mean? Like he was coming out
Define
and he
cool big. I'm gonna give me a demeanor.
well, he was
here.
cool for me, all right? Like I wanted to wrestle, he was doing it, all right? He had on a singlet, I had on a 6XL t-shirt, like he was cool. So that had like really caught my attention. And then I remember, you know, if I could, I'll mark out right now for DJ PhatPat. DJ PhatPat was one of my favorite wrestlers at NYWC because he was relatable to me in my journey. Well, no journey then. So fast forward now, you know, I had, you know, me and Pat never really talked or anything like that, but you know, he went on his weight loss journey, which I had known about just because of friends that I had within the business at NYWC. And then I had started training at NYWC, and one day he comes in and he's just this skinny motherfucker. Like super skinny, really well dressed. You could see his biceps popping out of his shirt. And I believe I had went up to you and, you know, said hello and whatever, and kind of was like, hey, you know, I kind of did what you did, like blah, 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 blah. And then that was really the end of the conversation that we had until much later on. But that's how I know Pat. So now, Pat, take us through how we went from DJ PhatPat to Patrick Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. Well, I could throw definitely a little bit of a thing. We were Facebook friends
For a really long time.
Yeah, just because we had a lot of similar connections from you attending shows, and then I remember you friended me one day,
right?
And I even have memories of like when I lost the weight originally, you like writing nice things. And
exactly.
I have memories then of you like watching you go, and then I honestly like I remember seeing it, and then I remember seeing a thing on my Snapchat pop up about you, and I was like, holy shit! So that's a little about me. But yeah, you know, I started wrestling. I always was an active dude. Like, I never really let, like, my weight define me in that way, at the very least. I mean, I did have a wrestling name named PhatPat, so.
But it was Fat with a PH, you know? It
was. It was right on the gear. It said PhatPat with a PH. But I never let it limit me as far as, like, being involved and active.
Right.
Played high school sports, played a little bit in college before that ended, and then I got into pro wrestling once I stopped playing football in those college years. And then and that's how it got going. And I do remember back then I always used to fool myself it was functional weight, which, you know, I was tipping the scales at 490 pounds, so I don't know how functional
490.
it was.
And how tall are you?
Yeah, I am 5'11".
5'11", 490. Holy balls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the highest pant I was wearing was size 68.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
60. Damn.
Yeah. I'm a big hip boy. I'm a big butt, big hip boy, so that's where my weight was. So like I wasn't quite up to the John 6X's,
Right.
but my pant size was pretty giant.
He had a fat with a pH butt. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god, yeah. I use that butt. I used to use that butt as a weapon in my wrestling matches.
Oh my
So actually, I've always
some
wanted to ask you.
Rikishi shit. Oh my god.
Very similar, yes.
That's funny.
Who came up with PhatPat? Was that you, or was that like a Shane thing?
No, PhatPat was. I mean, I was PhatPat since I was in first grade. Like my brother.
Oh, okay.
To this day, I'm in my brother's phone as PhatPat. So like that. That was something that I want to say started. I don't know how it started. I mean, it probably started as some kid making fun of me, right? And then
Right. Yeah.
Russell Simmons made Fat Farm, and then fat was used often in hip hop in the '90s. Mm-hmm. So it was an easy transition to, well, this is what we're doing to make this more palatable. And then when I was in 8th grade, you remember those trucker hats, and like dudes would like airbrush anything
them.
you wanted.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It was a huge trend back in the early 2000s, and I got like 4 trucker hats in 8th grade going into high school that said Fat Pat on them. So once I got to high school, it like completely branded me and re-identified people with me.
Oh my goodness.
I had people in my family who thought I was hating myself doing that, when really it was just like it was
deflection.
Deflection and acceptance, deflection,
Just
and also
fucking
an
own it.
identity.
Yeah,
and-
just own that shit.
Also, up until about 22, I was a legitimate professional DJ, and that was my legitimate professional DJ name. So, like it tied into everything.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
that's
think
awesome.
it's always this process. We got to be able to laugh. I think there is power in being able to laugh at your past. I think there's power in it. Like just laughing at yourself at what you used to do and how you live your life now. Walk me through a day in the life of Fat Pat from like middle school, high school, when it came to food and like what you did on a day-to-day basis.
All right, so middle school, that was pretty simple. That was like, it was a wake up. Mom would always have some sort of food for breakfast. My mom was very big in feeding me.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about like a whole box of cereal? Are we talking about like a big 6-point egg like breakfast? We talking about Danishes? Like what's the vibe?
So most of the time it was like bacon and eggs. It was she would cook. When I was in middle school, she wasn't working at that time, so she would cook something pretty legitimate. Then from there it would turn into go to school. My mom always made me chicken nuggets. Like that was always the thing. All the kids thought that was dope.
Like homemade chicken nuggets?
Yeah, well, like frozen. Like everyone would have their
I'm
like
my
their
mom
turkey
made me
sandwich.
chicken nuggets. I'm like, wait. She made homemade chicken nuggets.
She didn't grind up the meat and like forge it and face it. No. So that would be that, and then I would come home, and we didn't live too far away from a Burger King. We didn't live too far away from the corner store. I would always have a few extra dollars. I was a big laundry room change guy.
Oh my gosh.
If I was hungry, I would just take some change, go up to the Burger King. Dollar menu was popping back then. Just make it work. And then dinner time was always big. Half of my lineage is Italian, and that's what we lean into hard. So we're big feeders, and there was never like, oh, we're gonna make what is supposed to be one portion for a person. There was 5 of us at dinner, and we'd make 4 pounds of chicken cutlet.
Right.
And not that it was paramount that we eat all of it, but if there was a lot left, we'd be like, oh, we got to eat it all. Let's go. Always bread at dinner, like a whole loaf too. Mm-hmm. So like my father just came from a background that it was a big belief that dinner time was meant to be something special.
Right.
So so that's when that started. I went to high school. That was like, it took me like 45 minutes to get to my high school when I was a kid. So I always was super far away. And then that changed completely. Like that would be on my way to school, bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, get to school, have one of the free school lunches, be done with classes because I had football practice or baseball practice. So I always had an earlier schedule to get out of my classes. Would have enough time to run to the neighboring Taco Bell, the neighboring White Castle, the neighboring diner, get something for before practice because I need food, right?
Right.
Hit practice, come out of practice, grab something on my way home because it's a 45-minute ride. I need to eat something. Get home where dinner would be ready for me already, and then I'd eat that. So that was my high school existence.
Woo!
And college was pretty similar too, like in that regard where there was less like food is ready at home waiting for you, but it still was pretty readily available.
Right.
So it leans savory over sweet for you.
Oh my God, yes.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't the chocolate and cake and ice cream. It was just savory, just food.
Fried and fatty, salty, fried and fatty.
Gotcha.
In fact, when I started my journey, that was like one of the big questions. I'm sure you guys know. They ask you when you meet the food therapist, because that's one of the many things you have to do prior to being qualified for a bariatric surgery, or at least mine. And one of the things was I had to answer was it sweet or salty? And when I said salty, she was like, great. For whatever reason, more people have success that eat salty.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That was similar for when I had mine. But mine was also more like, did you like salty or sweet food? And then I answered that. It was like, have you ever thought about killing yourself because of your weight? And then I was like, no. No, I'm so serious. They were like, have you ever thought about killing yourself because of your weight? And I was like, no, I haven't. And she was like, okay, that's really good. That's very good. And then like on to the next point. And I never saw that therapist ever again.
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes it got really dark, and I just think it got super dark through that process.
Yeah.
But like, I'm such a natural, like, optimistic, jolly guy that I killed that vibe. I remember like being in the room, like being like, oh wow, well I'm gonna kill this vibe with just me being funny. Like, you know, like I was like, I don't want to be in this conversation. Like, there was have you ever thought about harming yourself was a big one. And then do you ever find yourself in a deep depression about your weight? And I was just like, well, you know, no. I eat and I'm very happy.
Right.
I eat when I'm sad,
funny.
I eat when I'm
Exactly.
happy, I eat because I like to eat. What do you want from me, man?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It felt. I even knew back then. I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to dig deeper than this because maybe next thing you know, I'm going to be crying in this room, and I don't want to do that.
No, absolutely not. So, obviously, you said that weight has always been an issue with you from an early onset age, well into high school and college. When and how did you make the decision to go the bariatric route?
So I was, like I said, I've always been really active. I've never let it hold me back from just like going out with my friends. I was never shy about my weight. Like, it is what it is. Like, if we were popping our shirts off, I'm right. Whatever. Like, are you going to be surprised about what exists underneath the shirt?
You did 400+ pound shirtless self.
Yeah, there's like videos of my friends.
Respect.
All drinking.
I wasn't one.
Hold on. Time out. David, maybe you missed the whole intro to this. He was 400 pounds in a fucking singlet in a wrestling
blows
ring
my mind.
in a
Well, I know.
crowd.
I'm just making sure here. I'm just walking it all together.
My man didn't care.
That was actually. Keep going.
Go ahead, David. Oh, okay, now we have videos of us, like, you know, drinking in our friends' backyards, like on slip and sides, and I'm like running around in like a Speedo because everyone thought it would be funny, and I was just like, sure. But I was like, I'm not going to be the one to buy it. Like, you guys have to buy it. But like, if we all think this would be fun, then let's fucking do it. And see,
that was with me with wrestling. So I did 5th and 6th grade, or 7th and 8th grade wrestling, and 7th grade I was already 280, maybe 300 pounds in 7th grade, and the whole practice going into the season, I wore a shirt, like a t-shirt, and then going into the first match, you had to wear a singlet, and I was like, I tried to wear a shirt underneath it, and they wouldn't allow it, and I'm like, all right, I quit. I'm not doing it, and I actually quit like before the season even started because I couldn't do that shit. Couldn't do it.
Oh,
Damn.
yeah.
That was.
I never talked about that story before.
No.
Yeah, so I did like the whole early season, like whatever of wrestling in 7th grade, and then as soon as that first match hit and I couldn't wear a shirt underneath my singlet, I was like, all right, I'm out. I ain't
Damn,
doing shit.
I can't even crack a
I'm-
joke. I'm so depressed now.
Titty flex, titties are just out and flopping. No, I ain't doing it.
No, they weren't flexing, my friend. They was just hanging and banging.
Flopping around, like I couldn't do it. Nope, I'm good.
Making your own, you're making your own round of applause with your titties, you know?
Exactly.
Too
So-
funny. That's impressive.
So back to the bariatric route.
Yes.
What was that? Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you actually answered the question. I think the answer kind of got deflected. So
Yeah,
so,
no, I can answer it. It's fine.
no, yeah. So when was that decision made for yourself, and then what was that process like for you? Besides, obviously, the therapy sessions and whatnot like that.
I went to at the time I went to my sister got it years ago, and she got the one that, like, when it was at its infancy, where they actually chop up your stomach and make it smaller.
So, full on gastric bypass.
She got the full on gastric. She had some
Okay.
complications with it, but she found success with losing weight. And I was like, okay. And I always had a mindset, and like I said, like back in the day when I used to think it was functional weight, in high school and college, I was an offensive lineman. They were like, well, if you lose weight, then what good are you to us? And then, like, even when I became a wrestler, I had people who John even were like, well, you're PhatPat. If you lose weight, then what are we doing here? And I'm just like, well, I could be anything else. It's wrestling.
Yeah.
So I always had it in my head that, like, I was never destined to always be this guy.
Right.
So it was always there. It was just about, like, properly motivating myself into doing it. So bariatric surgery seemed like a good leg up, or starting point, I should say, at least, to getting to get going, you know?
See, that's why I've always respected you and your journey, because of the fact that, like, you didn't go into it thinking, okay, bariatric surgery is that quick fix, it's going to solve all my problems, and then here we go off to the races. It was like, no, this is my jump start, this is how I'm going to get the horse going, and then eventually we're going to be trotting, and then when we trot, we're going to run. Because of the fact, like, at least for me, I don't know really with David, but for me, it was like my whole entire life, I had also told myself, like, I'm not destined to be 500 pounds forever. I'm not destined to be the fat kid forever. For me, it was always when I'm skinny, when I'm skinny, when I'm skinny. And I was just wiring my brain for years and convincing myself, okay, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. It's just we haven't figured out how to get to that light yet. So I've always really, really respected that with you. So when you say bariatric surgery, which surgery in particular did you have?
I got the lap bands.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's for those that don't know, it's essentially like it turns your esophagus into your stomach from like a 5-lane highway into like a 3-lane highway.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you keep getting it adjusted, it can turn that 3-lane into 2.5, 2. If you stay up on top on adjusting it and things like that. But like the moment they put it on, it immediately starts to like slow the food going into the digestion process.
So you're going to be one of the last Mohegans with the lap band, because they're getting rid of it.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, like, lap bands are super. You don't hear about it anymore. And did you have any later complications with it? I've heard that, like, after a few years in, it gets goofy. Have you had any issues?
So here's where it gets kind of funny. No, I haven't had issues. Let me just start off by that. So take that off the table. But I got it. So when I went there to get it, we went to a doctor that did not operate on patients unless they were 440 or less. In weight,
Gotcha.
Which my mom threw a shit. Like, you're telling me my son's too. I don't know if this is I don't know if this is a banned word.
You're too fat for the fat surgery. I get it. Yeah.
That's exactly what my mom yelled at in the doctor's office, and some people might have been embarrassed. I was just like, that's really funny. And that's when I weighed myself, found out I was actually 490. Because when you're 490, it's really hard to actually know how much you weigh, because most scales in and around in our life are just like, nope.
Yeah, 250, 300.
Right.
That's about it.
Yeah. So found out I was 490. And then the doctors were like, yeah, if you can lose 50 pounds, we could totally do this. And I told my mom, don't worry, I got this. And it took me about 6 months, but I dropped the weight. And it got so close to the date. The last weigh-in, I actually weighed 440.5, and and I was like, oh no. And like the doctor came out and went, son, this is your last weigh-in. 440.5 works for me. We won't be weighing you again. Enjoy your weekend. And I was like, yes, because everybody was super pumped that I don't know if a lot of people thought I was going to make the weight.
Right.
But the process, going through it, what was it? 13 doctors I had to hit up. Luckily, I've always been fortunate that I've had no underlying health issues as it pertains to any of like my inner health. I do have knee problems now that I am in physical therapy for to get better. But so like all those doctors were like, you're a perfect candidate for this, which I was like, great. I get the surgery. Within like 6 months of the surgery, the doctor falls off my mother's insurance and he goes private care. So just visiting the doctor was like $900 just for me to physically get on their table and have them look at me. Much less them to stick me and actually refill the band itself. We're talking thousands of dollars. So my mom was just kind of like, well, we're not gonna. My mom was like, we're not gonna pay for you to get your band filled. Because we'll pay for once a year checkup on the band to make sure everything's healthy and copacetic. But she's like, if you want it to be filled, you're going to have to pay the extra like $1,200 it's going to cost. We'll take care of the $900 visit every time, but that's on you. So that's like, never had a complication with the lap band except for the fact that they stopped taking my mother's insurance.
Could you go somewhere else to be like, just go to a doctor that's on your mom's insurance and be like, hey, I had the surgery done. Can you do it?
So I could, and it was definitely on the table to do that. My mom liked this doctor because, this doctor was like the highest rated doctor in the city.
Gotcha.
And she was like, if you're going to mess around with my son, we're going to do it with the best person. My mom told me I could make that decision if I wanted to. But at that time, I was like, you know what? It was clearly working. Like we knew from day one it was working. It still can work to this day by accident if I eat too fast. I was like, all right, let me see what I can do with it by myself without paying all this extra money to maintain it or anything like that. Because like I said before, and John highlighted, like I always kind of I didn't look at this like the crutch. I looked at it as like, this is a motivating starting point. Because I know people who got the surgery and were like, great, normally I eat a whole pizza, now I'm eating half a pizza. And I'm just like, mentally I knew. Mentally I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't be eating pizza 6 times a week. Yeah, you know what I mean? So like I always knew mentally like that wasn't right. So
Right. So how many times did you get it adjusted?
Once.
Really?
Yeah, so post-surgery, I went in, they looked at it, they said, great, we'll see you in 6 weeks, because that's when I should, like, everything should be healed. Saw them in 6 weeks, they added half a cc to it. It's a 12 it holds 12 cc's. They had 3 in it when they put it in me, so they added half a cc. The next time I visited, they added we realized we weren't on the insurance, so there's only, at most it got in there was 3.5 cc's. And probably I was told that some just evaporates over time. So I don't even know I don't physically know how much is in there these days. I just walk in, they kind of feel around, make sure it's placed where it is. They ask me, does it feel like it's moved? Is your pain, is it hurting in any way? They always tell me, like, listen, it's a very small chance something bad will happen, but the moment something bad happens, you will know. Like, there's like, they were like, there's no ambiguity about this. It's, you will know in a second something is very wrong. So I was like, okay, good to know.
Good to know.
That's
there's
impressive,
no
man, that you've only had it filled one time. Like, I know people that get it filled 3 times a year. Like, I personally know someone who goes to Greece every year. Her family's Greek. And she'll have it tightened for the whole year. And then a week before she leaves for Greece, she has them remove like 2.5 cc's so she can go nuts in Greece. And then when she comes home, she gets it refilled. Yeah. And that's how she lives her life. And
I'll be real. this is gonna sound terrible. So when I think lap, I'll be honest. I've never looked up the mechanism. Like, how does it work?
Oh, it's very simple.
Well, it's very simple, but at the same time, in my head, when I think adjustment, when I think lap band, I think like you have one of those. This is wrong now that I know, but in my head it was like when you put like the fastener around. Like,
yes, I know what you mean.
And you twist it and it like corkscrews it, tighten it a little bit. I was like, wait, there's fluid involved. There's cc's fluid. I'm super confused now. I'm like, okay, so the fluid gets pushed in, which then forces the stomach to be smaller. Not like a tightening measure. It's not like it's not like it's doing like this and getting tighter around.
Pat, you explain it since you have the surgery.
Yeah, so basically, it doesn't go around your stomach, because if it does fall on the stomach, that causes problems. It goes at the very top of the stomach where the food enters. So that's the analogy of the traffic. And then it's a band that clips around. And then around the stomach itself, if you can imagine the mic here is like the entrance to the stomach, you have another round band that the CC would fill up with with the liquid.
The more CCs you put into it, the more restricted.
The tighter it gets.
The more restricted. So like the outer band never moves, but the inner band will move as it gets injected.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you have a port, right? Yeah, you have a port.
And essentially, there's a port right here. And I've lost enough weight now where just if I stand normally and have my shirt off, like you physically see there's like a bump right here. So, and like they take a syringe that's no shit, like whoop, like you're like, hey, how you doing? They're just
little
like,
heebie-jeebies just hit me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, the one time I did it, I was just like leaning back with my eyes closed, like, ooh, and it felt like nothing because it barely goes in. Because like I said, it's right there. You can't miss it. So
interesting.
That's how that goes. I have fairly played my fair share of jokes with people, being a guy who played football, or at least two-hand flag football, pretty physical offensive line, pro wrestling. I've done it to ladies in the past where I'll be like if something happened, I'd be like, oh my God, what did you do? And like I'd make them feel it, and they'd be like, oh my God, what is that?
What did I do? What did I do?
What? Yeah. So like I've done my fair share of like, oh my God, what is this? What did you do to me?
Classic tangent. Got to do it. So I have a buddy of mine that he did a slip and slide, and the day before someone had ran over a aluminum can, and it was with a chainsaw or whatever it was. It ripped it all up, and it was all over the ground, and they didn't notice it. They put down a slip and slide, and the first run, he goes belly first. Zit, zit, zit. He has three solid gashes about this long, and pretty nasty scars. Well, because of it, now they look like stab wounds. Straight up, they look like he got stabbed 3 times.
Well, he did get stabbed.
So
he did get stabbed 3 times.
He did get stabbed 3 times. But the classic move at the bar would be like, I'd be with him and be like, yo, you don't understand. We go up with these 2 girls. Like he starts crying. He goes like, "You don't understand. This man saved my life." Like, really? What happened? We were at the bar last year, and this guy, we were protecting this girl, and this guy stabbed me, and he saved my life. No, he saved my life. No, you didn't get stabbed. That didn't happen. He pulls up his shirt, and here's the marks. You saved his life? And I'm like, yeah.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Come on. It's a great story.
I mean, I'll give it to him. He was using it for wingman qualities and not self-gain. I'll give him that. That's a good guy.
So you have the lap band surgery, right? And what happens afterward? Like, you're all healed up. It's time to make these lifestyle changes. How is life different for you now that you've had it? And like, how are you going about your daily life?
So there's a little bit of a recovery period. It does not take long to physically get back to normal. Like, I think I got the surgery on a Monday. I was back in my classes by a Wednesday. So like,
wow.
It's an out procedure. It's more about your pain tolerance that early.
Mm-hmm.
So, and going to class was important, obviously. So I was back there. I wasn't in the best shape. Like you felt pain. but it was just something to deal with. And then basically they say we guarantee for about 2 weeks you're going to be on non-solid food. So you just have to prep yourself to be able to eat food non-solidly for 2 weeks minimum. They said you'll visit us. We'll ask you some questions, and then from there, if we feel like you can, we'll prescribe you soft solids, and then you can go from there. They said things like there was a lot of absolute talk, and I'm not a big absolute guy when it comes to weight loss or just lifestyle.
Yep.
Absolutely no more carbonation in your life. I'm drinking a big gulp as we speak. So I did follow that rule. I did follow the carbonation rule for a little while. So no beer, no soda for, I think it was 18 months I went. But eventually I was just this isn't really sustainable. I like Diet Coke. I like beer. At that time, it was definitely it's cheaper for me to drink beer. There was just a lot of just logical things to me that it didn't make sense. And, my first while, losing my first couple of years, it was slow going. I didn't I saw success, but I wasn't overly embracing it at that time yet.
Right.
I still was wrestling. I enjoyed losing weight, but I also was really, really big. So, there was not a lot of affirmation coming at me at that time either. Because, when you go from 490 to 440 to 440 to 420 to 420 to 4, not that many people really realize on the day-to-day basis. They just,
100%.
I think most people just file, you're a big guy.
Right.
You're still big,
Mm-hmm.
So it was slow going there. It was 3 years of going from 440 down to 340. So it was
It took you 3 years to wait. Did you say it took you 3 years to lose a little over 100 pounds?
Yes.
Respect.
Well, this is about. I mean, it's about to get it's about to get a little bit more crazy on you in a second.
Interesting.
I then moved to Los Angeles for my career. I always made a joke that the reason why I was big was because of my family. I was going to Los Angeles. None of my family were there. And I remember even having a pep talk with myself, oh boy, it's put up or shut up on that. Cause that's always kind of been my go-to, I guess.
That's always fun. Yep.
So I get to LA, in September. I go from 340 to, 330 from September to January 14th. January 14th, I'm you know what? This year is going to be all about losing weight. Stay focused on it. This is what we're doing. I'm working a lot and I'm focused on losing weight. And from January 14th, 2015 to January 14th, 2016, I went from 332 to 205.
Yep.
See,
solid.
I fucking love that because again, there's a lot to unpack there. Well, first and foremost, I love the fact that you had weight loss surgery, didn't lose 100 pounds in 6 months.
No,
I love that.
That definitely did not happen. No.
See, I love that because it's everyone, you get a lot of people that happens too, and you get a lot of people that don't. And we always tend to glorify who loses the weight the fastest.
Right.
If you didn't lose at least 150 pounds in a year, you're a bitch. That's how a lot of social media is. And if you're getting hit up by any type of news organization, all that kind of stuff. Oh, you lost 300 pounds? How long did it take you? Oh, 6 years. Wait, no. I need you to at least do it in 2, or it's not really that important. No, shut the fuck up. I lost 300 pounds. I don't care how long it took. But that it's shitty. But that is actually a place we're in right now, which is fucking up people mentally, which is if you're not losing 100 pounds in a year, it's what are you doing? And it's guys, that's not what it's about.
Especially if you don't know any better. You already, when you're in a place where you have to lose weight, it's break it or break, that you have to lose weight. It's you want to lose it mentally as quickly as possible because you don't know any better. You don't realize that the quicker you lose it, most of the time you don't stick with those results that you're having. You know what I mean? So it's being stuck in that mindset forever, and now it's just getting worse. Like you just said, news organizations, whatever publications are hitting people up and doing all these spots on people on social media that are losing all this weight. You're exactly right. Like, as soon as they find out little key details, you're not important anymore. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, it happened to me. I had scheduled, this was supposed to be my first big news media story about myself. This was years ago. And I had, been hit up by this company, and they went as far as scheduling a date, a time, and they were coming to my house with a camera crew, and told them my full story, didn't leave out any details, never left out the fact that I had bariatric surgery or anything. The night before that they're supposed to show up to my house to film me, the person who I had as a contact there had hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm really sorry to do this, but our main producer is no longer interested in running your story anymore because she had finally noticed that you had bariatric surgery, even though you said it several times in our initial interview." And I was like, wow, that sucks. And I thought, literally from that point forward, I had literally thought that my weight loss never mattered anymore because of the fact that I had bariatric surgery. And that's why I'm a disgruntled asshole now on social media. But that's a story for a different day. Don't even worry about that. I'm fine. Everything's great.
No, 100% though. It's like it's. I respect the fact that here you are having the quote unquote weight loss surgery. That's the secret pill that fixes your life and everything's sunshine and rainbows. And you find out, number one, it takes time.
Right.
And number two, like, I love this story. Oh, it's my family. It's my family, man. If my family weren't around, I would eat exactly right. Everything's great. It's my family. And then you move, and it doesn't necessarily happen. You're like, yeah, it's still this guy. And then you're just like, all right, I'm sick of my shit. I need to change. So in this process, that last year when you lost 100 pounds, a little over 100 pounds, what was that system like? How were you eating? How were you moving in LA?
Well, he was a Cali girl at that point.
You were a Cali girl, so you're wooing. It was the cocaine diet. Was that what it was?
It's referred to as Valley Girl, not Cali Girl. If you could make sure you if you're gonna use it derogatory like that, if you can at least insult correctly, okay? Wow, wow.
The head bob is perfect.
Yeah. So no, it was like I was very uninformed at that time. And, well, not very. At that point, like, I did adjust a bit, obviously, to get down, like, the 150 pounds I was down by then.
Of course.
So I was informed, but I was working a ton. I work in TV, so I'm on my feet a lot. And that, especially, like, in that pocket of my life, I was not turning down a single job. And I was on my feet. These are, like, 12, 18-hour days, depending on, like, what we're filming and when we're filming it. So I was always actively moving. It was important to take on some sort of regiment of a workout. I was very novice at that point. I'm way ahead of that now, and I'm still not even what I would consider advanced. But I started doing yoga at that time. It was DDP yoga for all my wrestling fans out there.
Yeah.
So it was easy. It was easy to do it at home, like in front of my TV screen. When I could get to the gym, I always liked to get to the gym, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And then the eating, it was real simple. And now I like look back and I go, okay, I was hitting the mark pretty good. It was super focused on protein going in. The next most important thing was vegetables. A little bit of a miss of the mark there, but not too bad. And not that I was like zero carbs, but like it was it was not a priority on the eating schedule.
Right.
Yep.
And then within that year or two, I had like 3 or 4 weeks that I diet braked completely. And I'm a huge fan of diet breaking, for sure. And also, like, to me, a diet, that word does exist, but it means that you're shaping something that is not sustainable that's not long-term sustainable.
Right.
A diet, you implement a diet to achieve a short-term goal. Like, for instance, right now, we are here in America, we are 10 weeks away from Memorial Day, which on the Some Days Off show, we always call that bro and chick opening day, where everybody wants to be shredded and lean and tan. So I'm in the middle of a cut. Like, I got up as high as 227 now, and I would love to be a little bit leaner come that time. I live in Long Beach and Long Island, which is a very beachy community. So it's just something that, like, it's a goal for me. The way I'm eating right now, that would never be sustainable for me for the long term of my life, but it's what I need to do now.
Absolutely.
The built-in diet break thing, like, just happened to like hit it and didn't realize like, oh, this is actually something that is kind of important. So that was part of the plan. Lots of movement. Like I said, it was at that time, my job did not have me sedentary at all. It was moving a ton. And then at that time too, people noticed the weight loss too. So the affirmation was intoxicating, to be honest. Like,
right.
Not only was the people, my close knit circle in LA noticing, I was coming back to New York like every 6 weeks, 2 months. I think the longest I ever went was like a 3-month gap not being in the city, because work would bring me back. And when, the people in your inner circle go from seeing you every day of your life to then suddenly like you take 2-month gaps where suddenly you're coming back weighing 15, 20, 30 pounds less, suddenly they start to notice, and just everybody starts to give you that affirmation, and it just turns into a giant snowball.
Right.
To where maybe the eating was not sustainable for a year, but because it was happening, and I set that goal, like I want a before picture and an after picture for the January 14th stuff. And, it was just a giant snowball. And that was basically the mindset, like, and eating, like I said, super prioritize on protein. The vegetable was the next most important thing. And then, maybe I can make a little rice, or maybe make a potato of some sort.
Gotcha. Very cool. And then, but at this time, were you doing a lot of lifting, or was it just mostly basically walking for what you did for work?
It was yoga, and then it was lifting in the sense that like I had no clue what was going on. Like I was just like, I guess I'll lift, man.
I'll grab some dumbbells and throw them around a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. I recently posted this last January 14th. I posted like the day I lost the weight at 205 compared to this time, and I'm actually 20 pounds heavier from that picture. And,
but you look better.
Way better. Personally,
Huge.
I thought that. Way better. I personally thought that, and like tons of people were just like, like we would have never said you were bad looking then, especially knowing your story, but like you look way healthier now.
Yep.
And it took me going to a friend who's also a pro wrestler, who's a really good weightlifter, and I was just like, and this was only like 3 years ago. I was like, hey man, I need to get better at this, and he was like, let's do it. And I worked out with him for about a good year. And then like, he kind of was like, you know what, you need to go to my friend Mike. And he was like, ironically enough, his father. And he was like, go to Mike, see what's up. And then Mike has been my personal trainer ever since. And I've made incredible leaps doing it. And then it's now it's really becoming a major part of my life, beyond just being something I'm doing. I'm starting to identify myself more as this person, and starting down a path where a career will be attached to it, hopefully.
Absolutely. No, that's incredible. And guys, if you're listening and you are on Long Island, be sure that you check out Stoked. They're a great group of people, man. I recommend that a lot of people go there, so check them out. Good group of guys and gals. But yeah, so now you've made this transition, you've come home, you're living this brand new life, you leave LA, you're back in New York, and where are we right now? How are we living? What are we doing? What's the day-to-day like?
So right now, like I said, I am in a mode where I am counting everything that I'm eating. I use an app called Macro Factor. It actually is a sponsor of the Some Days Off show. It's a paid for app. In order to use it, it's super worth it. If you guys want to use it, check it out. You can use Stoked on the promo code, and you guys can try it out for a bit of a discount. But I'm tracking everything I'm eating, no matter if I'm working or not. Mm-hmm. I don't work nearly as much as I used to back in the day. When you're an entry level in television, you have to take everything because you make nothing. The pay scale in television is crazy because you make nothing when you start, and then one day they're like, "Why don't we promote you?" Then you start making good money, and you're like, "Oh shit!" And then when you get promoted beyond that, there's less jobs, but you're making a lot more money. So I don't work every day anymore, which is dope. But when I am working, I will either try to plan it. If I am counting like strictly, I will plan meals ahead. I know where I can go if I need to eat out and stick to numbers.
Right.
things like that. So like that's I know some people who immediately think like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do that if I want to lose weight. I'm like, no, you don't. You definitely don't. Like this is years of what I do is years of like research and trial and error and working at it. So like ironically enough, I undereat. My normal like mindset when I'm eating, I undereat what I should be eating, which is crazy. Like I'm in what's called a cut right now, which is designed for me to lose weight, which I have been doing effectively for 3 weeks. I'm actually eating more than I normally would, as crazy as that would sound. So, it's just when I'm not counting, it's super easy. I have no problem eating anything. I'm savvy enough to know what's going in and what's not. And then, I think the bigger thing for me is that when I'm home, when me and my wife are home, we're eating, I don't want to say boring, but like we're super tight when we're in the confines of our home. Like, I wouldn't even say simple. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, we know what we're putting in to our bodies. That way, when we go out, who cares?
Absolutely.
Like if I know that like, oh shit, I ate like 6 ounces of chicken earlier today. I had a protein shake. I had some Greek yogurt. I know I'm in the ballpark of like only needing 40 more grams of protein. Whatever, man. I'll go out and drink. I'll eat whatever I want. So like that's like when I'm not counting, obviously. And when I am counting, I'm still I have a day that is a refeed day where I get to eat more. So even those days I can design to go out, like on a Friday night, we could just go out and we can eat a little bit more. And it's not a big deal.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. I mean, guys who are listening to this, I'm however many years I've been losing weight now. I don't know, 6-7 years into this journey. And I've never counted a macro. Ever. Doesn't attract. There's nothing attractive about it to me right now. That could change down the line. I've thought about it before, but like everything is so you got to count macros, or you got to count calories, or you got to count carbs. Like at the end of the day, you will figure out what works for you, and maybe 100%. One of those things are not for you. You know what I mean? Like, but what do I know? Not a lot of anything.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm only very big on counting now because I've taken to fitness in a real way, and to maximize that, like that's the other part of it that I think that people who get into fitness, like we all know the people who go to the gym every day and they don't look like anything's changing, and part of it is that they're not maximizing the other end of it, which is ironically enough probably the more important end of it when it comes to like. Like you guys say I look jacked, and that's super great. I don't think I look jacked, but like, it's great that people think that, and I just want to, I want to see what's the peak of this can look like, so like.
Me too, part of that, I feel you.
Yeah, and part of that is just like, I've learned how to do this, and now I can do it. So like, and again, too, it's not about you have to do it this way. There's so many different routes and roads to reach the destination.
Absolutely.
I can pave a way, and if you want to follow that way exactly, great. Let's go. Follow me. But sometimes you just got to find your own way to do it.
Absolutely. So you lost 300 pounds, right? Got to be some loose skin.
Oh yeah, tons around the old abdomen and thigh butt area. That's like that was my big part of my body. I often joked I was built like a football, so like you can imagine. So I got lucky in the sense that like when you look at me with my clothes on, generally like no one can even notice that I lost all that weight. Which I won't lie. At first I was like really annoyed by it. I was like nobody could notice, but then I was like, who cares? But right. Yeah, it's tucked away right in that abdomen area. So getting that last row of abs seems damn near impossible.
Have you thought about removal surgery? Is it on your horizon? Do you not care at all?
I've went through waves of it. Went through like, oh, my loose skin's my badge of honor. I hit that wave. I hit the next wave of like, oh, if I'm really going to try this fitness thing, maybe I need to get rid of it. And then I also hit a wave of like, you know what? Like, it's expensive. And if I have the money, if I have the money laying around one day, maybe. If I'm told it affects my health in any way, like definitely we'll definitely look into it. I'm very big on not being afraid to put money into my body for health purposes.
Right.
But like right now, like, you know, we bought a house. We're adding a second floor to that house. Like,
That's awesome.
I have way more stuff I'm more interested in doing with the money than like a very vanity based thing for me at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if I have the cash for it, I would have 100% do it by now. Like I make it sound like, oh, I don't want to do this vanity thing, but if I had the cash for it and it was like, this wouldn't change my life one bit, 100% I'd be looking into it and see if it's right for me.
No, listen, I appreciate the honesty. You know what I mean? Because there's people that are out there that are like, oh, fuck the loose skin, like, you know, I don't care, blah, 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 blah. And then behind closed doors, they can't stand the sight of themselves. And, you know, I appreciate honesty. That's all we ask for here on the ALG podcast.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we are going to have to wrap this up. But before we do, I do have a couple of questions that I like to end with the guests. So the first question that I have to throw at you is, Fattrick, I'm so sorry. That is so offending.
I have been called that before too. It's fine. That's Fitzpatrcik. Patrick is not a new one.
Patrick Fitzpatrick, if you could go back in time and talk to DJ PhatPat, what would you tell him? He has no idea what's about to happen.
That the weight is not functional in any way, man. Like, no one needs to be 490 pounds. Yes, you had a lot of fun playing football. Yes, wrestling was a lot easier and simpler for me when I was 490 pounds. Like, now it's like an infinite amount of possibilities. Shopping for clothes is going to get really difficult. Not because it's, you know, you're no longer going to have to shop at just the two stores that carry your size. Now you can go to any store, and
right.
As cool as that seems like,
it's not.
It's going to be really overwhelming, and you're going to not know what to do with it. Like, that was a big thing. I couldn't wait to shop at any store, and then suddenly I could, and like I would go to the mall with like $1,000 in my hand, like, I need a new wardrobe, baby. And then next thing you know, I'd be leaving like, I don't even know where to start. You know, like, there's like 18 different cuts of jeans. Like, what, like, I just went to the big and tall store, and they had one in my size, and that was it. Like, let's go. Hopefully they had 3 or 2 colors. Mm-hmm. Now it's like slim cuts, trim cut, athletic cut, and I'm just like, oh boy. So, I mean, even to this day, I'm just like, in this cut, I'm that size. In this cut, I'm that size. I'm like, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's overwhelming as shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, you know, it is who you are. Like, being Fat Pat was definitely who you were, who you identified with, but it's not really who you are. And not that anybody's being malicious by saying you should be Fat Pat, but, you know, they're not exactly looking out for Fat Pat when he's 60, 70, 80, you know, and, you know, 90, God willing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Pat, if you could give the listeners 3 pieces of advice, and they don't have to be about weight loss.
3 pieces of advice. No one knows, and this is something I learned in wrestling, and I've taken it to real life. No one knows you fucked up unless you tell them. You know, like, you could certainly fuck things up all the time, but like, it's all about how you react to it, and then go fix it. You know, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, in the wrestling ring, it's a dance out there, and we may do something wrong, but, you know, you may not know. And that was a piece of advice I always carried with myself. Improvement is a process. We talked about, just like in terms of weight loss too, that, like, people want that instant gratification. So, you know, like, just know that, like, you're not going to know all the information immediately. Like, it's going to take a second. You know, like, all this, if you were impressed by this, I'm super grateful for this, but this was an 8-year process to get this. So, you know what I mean? And then, what else would I give? I had one, but then it slipped my mind. So, you know, just, yeah, man, I don't know if I have another one off the top of my head. You put me on the spot like that.
My bad.
Yeah, you didn't prep me at all for that. Jeez.
Shoot, brother. Shoot.
I don't know, man. Like, no one knows if you fucked up. That's a big one for me. Like, it's a process, and I guess like, and this goes to process too. Is that like I'm a big believer in that. Like, I guess this goes right with process too. We all kind of overestimate what we can get done in a year, underestimate what we can get done in 5, and underestimate what we can get done in 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's a big one for me too. Is that like I don't need to see the instant gratification on anything I do. If I keep with it, I guarantee it's going to pay off in some form or fashion.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
You know, so like that's a big one for me too. Just kind of stick with stuff if that's what you like to do. If it's angled on you, eventually something will come of it, I'm sure.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Pat, I appreciate you being on and sharing a bit of your story today. Plug your Instagram, plug everything you have going on right now.
All right, guys. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you definitely can. I'd appreciate it. I do enjoy cooking and making meals that taste good, that are not like riddled with, like meals that can't fit into your everyday life. So go follow me there. I am Patrick Fitzpatrick PFP on Instagram. The podcast is the Some Days Off Show because you don't need to be working out every day. In fact, you shouldn't. So that's why we call it the Some Days Off Show. It's a podcast that features 2 fitness professionals and a dude who's lost over 300 pounds. Again, I'm that dude. The 2 fitness professionals, Mike and Gaspar. Mike is my personal trainer, so I highly encourage you check him out. That is at Stoked Athletics here on Long Island. They take clients both online and clients in person. So even if you're not in New York, maybe it's for you. If you're a big wrestling fan, Mike has like literally a roster now of professional wrestlers on your TV screen that is so long, like it's crazy at this point. Again, if you guys want to give it a try, it's certainly not required by any means to losing weight or in bettering your physique or any sort of working out. But, it's a good thing to kind of put in your toolbox, is to learn how to count your macros and learn how to count macros and understanding what food has in it. Go download Macro Factor. We're big proponents of it. You can pay for a month or you can pay for the year. If you're trying it out for the hay of it, I would suggest maybe just doing a month. Check it out if it's right for you. Use promo code Stoked, and that will give you a little bit of a discount, and we'd appreciate it. And the podcast drops each and every Monday on all podcast platforms.
Pat, it was awesome to have you. It was awesome to see you. I appreciate you, brother. Guys, thank you. If you listened to this all the way through, you can follow Pat on Instagram. You can follow me at JARPS_journey. You can follow David at fit_drock. You can visit redcon.com and save with promo code T20JARPS. Real good foods promo code, the gains in between. That's gains with a Z. 5-star rate and review. Share this with someone who you think will be inspired. And you can join us each and every single Wednesday night for the ALG community call that is absolutely free. You can join the exclusive ALG Facebook community right now to gain access to that call. I think that's it, guys. I think I ran through it. So, as always, stay beautiful, stay sexy, stay accountable. David?
Toodles.
Baby.